How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman, and the topic for this particular edition is Hurray. What do you mean, hooray? Hooray, we've already seen what we're referring to as rationalized or focused artificial intelligence. Rationalized or focused artificial intelligence. Well, what does that mean? Well, if any of you have been playing around a little bit with ChatGPT or its variants, you sort of know that you can ask it anything and it's going to give you something back in a very confident and possibly convincing tone or response. What's the problem, though, in general? Well, the answer can be full of errors and mistakes and things like that. And hey, that's just what it is. And as you've heard from my other broadcasts, and will continue on in some of my longer broadcasts, it actually has to do with not the engine as much as it has to do with what it's being trained on, meaning the data. So what's actually happening here is that organizations, companies, vendors, suppliers, and app developers are quickly realizing this and saying, you know, we're going to get a competitive advantage, which we want you to have, you, our listeners also, and recognize that we can build mini AIs that are very focused on a specific area. And we're seeing that right now, which is actually fantastic. In other words, a lot of the angst about this whole concept of open AI and artificial intelligence is due to the nonsense that comes back. And we're seeing this already addressed, which is absolutely great. And what's happening is that the focus is on a specific purpose or subject, and the underlying knowledge or data is defined by experts in that particular field. And that's really what's required, rather than the general sludge that we see on the internet. So just a couple of examples, just a couple of quick examples, about this. There is a homework application from Khan Academy, and they've got some personal learning tools that are out there already, which is absolutely, fantastic. Now here's the rub, by the way, and you hear this rub all along. You know what? It costs you money, because it's actually best practices, and best practices cost money. They're not on the internet. The internet has published practices, and of course, unfortunately, a bunch of nonsense, that's there. So we have to recognize that. So all of this stuff is going to cost money. There's an app out there called Role Play, which is about language learning. And you know what? It's also manned by experts and it costs money. I think it's $30 a month or something like that. So you're seeing a pattern here. Knowledge costs money. And if you really want good stuff, it's going to cost money. On the other hand, this stuff is working pretty well and pretty quickly. I've used Grammarly for quite a while. And my colleagues do also. Now there's Grammarly Go. Once again, it's now a subscription service. I think it's free. Yes, it's free for, I think, 100 prompts a month, and then $30 a month for 500, or I think $150 or so annually. Again, enhanced functionality, and of course the expertise behind it. Even Expedia has gotten into this game here, and now they have a version that provides some pretty solid understanding behind their, using the chat GTP technology, but not the data. Once again, the data is vetted by experts in those particular areas. So what all this is being called is what we call it rationalized or focused artificial intelligence. So each particular application has a purpose, and that's where a lot of the problems start disappearing. But as we close, well, we have to recognize there's still even some issues here, but they are minimal compared to the general things that are out there. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.